it's fascinating because whenever I get someone asking me like, well, what would you do? I always make sure that before I even answer that from the lens of what I would do, I always put a disclaimer out there like, you're not me and that's okay. And I'm not you.
When you're giving someone advice, you have to give them advice from this is their best interest, from what they are telling me that they want. This is guidance that I can give to you. Hey, everybody, it's Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
Welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are helping growth minded humans evolve by breaking one limiting belief at a time. We hope you enjoyed the last episode, number 313, Motivation Monday, the top 3 habits to feeling more free. For today, 314, be mindful of your friends' advice. I have gotten more shit advice from more people than I can count.
Okay.
I think we love, as human beings, I've also given terrible advice, so let's just put it there. But I think as people, we love being like the knower, right? It's like, I'm the intelligent one. I'm the one who knows things. And we want to give people advice because I think partly we really want to like help the other person. And I low
Right.
key also just a little bit think we also like hearing ourselves giving advice because it makes us feel significant in some way.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, like 10 out of 10 acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it also comes at a huge cost, especially when you might not fully know what it is you're talking about. And so you give bad
Mm-hmm.
advice, or you don't know the other person's actual goals and intentions and desires. And so you're giving advice from not a place that's actually going to be beneficial to them. And I know that you and Alan in the Conscious Couples just recently did an entire event based on that fact.
Yeah. And I'm grateful you were there too, because like I mentioned a little bit earlier, yeah, like it was really great. I love that we're able to pull some of that stuff into these episodes because the dynamics that you and I will talk about pertaining to that topic is going to be really helpful for our listeners. And I know that for sure. So, B, what we talked about in that event and how it pertains to this topic is really around the surprising nature that was revealed, for lack of better words, when we asked people, the question around true friendship. And the question itself was from 0 to 10, if you're painfully honest with yourself, like brutally honest, how rare have true friends been in your life? And we got like literally a plethora of answers, but most of them kind of revolving around the like 0 to 1, maybe max 3. And why that's significant is because the definition that we gave in that event was what a true friend actually is. And I think that I want to put this in as kind of like that foundational brick for the purposes of this episode. Because again, we can talk here all we want about giving advice and or not taking advice or being mindful of that without putting in this small disclaimer around how we're navigating this episode, because I know you and I, unlike many people, will make sure that we groom through the words that we choose very tactfully to make sure that we have the humility to know that we don't know exactly what the thoughts, what the goals, what the perceptions are in the people that are listening to us right now. However, we try our very best to put that stipulation out there that every single piece of guidance that we give or we share is based on our personal experiences, what we've learned through the masses, and what we've learned about our community. And even then, there's a unique situation for every single listener, right? So, this definition of what a true friend actually is, we started with someone who offers you support to improve your quality of life, promote self confidence, provide honesty, and here's the key word, unconditional love, and help you without concern for their own gain. And that's the biggest thing around this conversation. When people answered 0 to 10, how often have true friends really been a part of your life? And the numbers were so low. Very, very few people have had really true friends that are not grooming through their own lens of perception or bias or whatnot when it comes to giving them advice. The numbers are very low. And that's the thing. I know you and I have both been on the receiving end of really terrible advice. And I think it's warranting this conversation around how mindful we do need to be in general around what advice people are taking, ourselves included, because it's so easy. Like, I remember someone saying to me, like, people are like a-holes. Everyone has one, but no one really wants to acknowledge it. It's like, yeah, kind of.
People or
And why?
opinions?
Yeah, people and their opinions.
Oh,
People are a-holes because of the fact that they give their opinions without recognizing that they should probably
okay.
consider their own before they give it. But very clear distinction on that one. I should probably, you know, be a little bit more specific. Their opinions. Yes, their opinions. Um, Everyone has
Oh,
one.
we're winning.
We're winning
Every
today. But everyone does
everyone
have an
does have
opinion.
them.
It's fact. Yeah, but no one wants to acknowledge that, and here's what's ironic is so
Oh
few
my
people
god.
actually wanna take their own advice before they give that to someone, and you and I are the complete opposite to a fault sometimes, where we might not talk about certain things because we wanna make sure that we live it before we even say anything on the topic, whereas a lot of people will make sure that they can speak it before they ever even attempt or consider attempting to try something out or to look at it from an alternative perspective.
I do wanna be very mindful of the fact, though, that I was not always like this, and I'm very candid
Mm.
when I say this. When we first started the show, I was talking all theory and no lived experience. I could talk so openly about a topic, and just because I had the clinical backing to, like, back what I was saying in my own I couldn't value what I was saying because I knew I wasn't living it, and so I felt kind of full of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the opposite where, to your point, I won't give advice that I haven't lived. I
Yeah.
won't tell someone to go do something that I haven't done, and I'm also, for better or for worse, extremely critical of other clinicians and other people who don't do the same, and it's it's the reason why the only two people whose feedback and whose advice and whose guidance I will take and listen to is you and Alan, because you guys are that more than anybody I've ever met. I think everybody wants to give advice because I really believe people want to see other people succeed. Like anyone who's ever given me advice, like family members, friends, whatever, I really do believe that in their heart, they were trying to do good, right? Their intentions were pure. Now, do I think the execution was pure? Absolutely not. But
Mhm.
how could it be? Because your intention can only be pure and your execution can only be pure if you're really grounded within yourself. And to that last point that you made, you're not giving advice based on you wanting to see that person have a particular outcome that you believe is in their best interest.
Right.
When you're
Right.
giving someone advice, you have to give them advice from this is their best interest, from what they are telling me that
Mhm.
they want. This is guidance that I can give to you. This is
Right.
what I believe based on what you are telling me about yourself. And I'm trying to do my best to acknowledge that I have my own biases and I have my own limitations and I have my own BS that's going to come out. And
Mhm.
I'll do my best to navigate that. But
Yeah.
that's really hard. Like, how many people are actually acknowledging how many of your parents, how many of your friends, how many of your siblings, how many people in your life are actually willing to say that? If they're not willing to say that, don't take their advice. Don't take their guidance. Don't listen to them. I don't care if they have every theoretical perspective in their back pocket. If they're not living it,
Mhm.
don't take their advice.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications at a radio station here in central Massachusetts. I've been a part of the Evolve team for about a year now, and I can say it's been nothing but great. Kind of diving into myself and realizing that I need to step out of my comfort zone and build that confidence in my insecurities, but also maintaining who I am as a person. You know, this is a community that's not forcing anything upon you, that wants you to feel nothing but welcome. And it's just super genuine and super honest too, which I like. And again, just recognizing that you are your own person on your own journey, but everybody in the community is here with you. And, you know, we're all at different stages in life, and that's a very important thing to recognize. So Emilia, Bianca, and Derek especially have helped me get to the point where I'm able to kind of excel in my career and in my personal life.
And this is where this episode of being mindful really comes in, which is understanding the angle to which someone, how they give you advice, what do they have to gain? And this is really what we went into in that relationship talks event, which is when you think about, like, again, this was in the context of partners will have really rough patches in their relationships, and it's only because they took a friend's really horrible advice. So picture, I remember a time where I was in a relationship back in high school, and one of my friends, because they didn't like my partner, and it wasn't that they didn't like my partner, but they didn't like how much time I was spending with my partner, where that used to be time that I would be spending with them. So because of how that had my choices to be in that relationship with that individual had put them at a loss, for lack of better words, unconsciously and unknowingly they were trying to sabotage that relationship. So the advice that I would get unsolicited advice from them. If I were to have listened to that, I always had to go through this lens of what is the angle. And in hindsight, it's so obvious that every single time they tried to give unsolicited advice, number one, it was never asked for. But number two, it came from an angle of they ultimately want this relationship to end. So the advice that they're saying can't help but have that angle within it. And to your point, so many people have this bias built within, this angle built within to meet their own selfish needs. And very few people do constantly groom through the level of humility that they have, their unconscious narratives, unconscious biases, and things that they have to gain, and try to bring that to their conscious mind before having the humility to say, honestly, I have no idea what it feels like to be in your skin. I can only imagine. And with that said, based on my questions that are clarifying questions of, like, what are your goals? What are your beliefs? What are your values? Who are you trying to be? Based on that data that you've given to me, and you've given me the spot to be someone who can speak into your life, here's the guidance I would suggest, with full well knowing and encouraging you to have your own choice. Let this data come into your mind and sift through in your own internal compass. I know that's something that both Alan and myself have even been, like, so diligent at making sure that we are doing that on our own accord when it comes to you and when it comes to other people. And that's what you and I do, again, with clients, with people in our community, because we know what it feels like to have people who have, number one,
Yeah.
giving unsolicited advice left and right. Number two, it's terrible advice because they have no idea who you actually are. They've never even once asked you what your goals are. So of
Yeah.
course this advice is going to be terrible. And number two, they're not taking the time to kind of get to know you before they do go ahead and throw out that advice. It's fascinating because whenever I get someone asking me, like, well, what would you do? I always make sure that before I even answer that from the lens of what I would do, I always put a disclaimer out there, like, you're not me, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And I'm not you. So let me understand who you aspire to be, because I can try to take it from that lens and share with you, if I were you, this is what I, knowing what I know now, would try to think about, not necessarily what I would do.
If you think about it in therapy, if you have a good therapist, and I do this with all of my clients, I never tell my clients what to do. Unless
Same.
they're like, "Bianca, please just tell me. Like, what would you do?" Kinda to what you're saying, and I have clients do
Right.
that all the time. But
Right.
I will almost never be like, this is what I think you should do. Go do this, go do this, go do this. I
Facts.
ask questions. I
Mhm.
ask questions and I help them come up with the answer that they think is in their best interest.
Same. Yeah.
I don't, I'm not freaking human supreme. I'm not God. Like, I don't know what is right for you. I have my ideas, I have
Yeah.
my beliefs, and we can talk about that. But I'm not going to tell you, hey, this is what you need to do. Like, who the hell am
Right.
I? And having that, no, but it's true,
It's
Em. Like
so true. Beats, trust
having
me,
that,
I know, because like, literally even on the homework that I have for clients, those who are like, "I want that," it's literally, "I can't not have this suggested homework." Because though it's suggested, I want you to make sure that you know that, like, you have a choice throughout all of this.
yeah. If you can't have the humility to say that I don't know all the answers and I this might not be the best advice, but let's have a dialogue, don't give
Mhm.
advice.
Yeah.
Because at that point you're telling someone to do something based on your own ideas and perceptions that are very different than this person. So for my
Mhm.
clients, I'll say, listen, based on everything you've told me, based on what you've told me you want for your life, based on what you've told me that you want, these are
Mhm.
my thoughts and let's have a dialogue about it.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, you know what? What do you think about this? I know you're looking for an answer from me, but I'm going to redirect it back to you for a minute. And they're like, you're such a therapist. And I'm like, that's my job. Hello, that's why we're here. I have to add the little spiciness in there. That's why they come back.
Got it.
But
Mhm.
I'll redirect it and I'll be like, "Listen, I could give you the advice, but it'll mean more if you come up with the answer on your own. So,
Mhm.
I'm going to turn the tables a little bit. What's the problem here? What's the outcome that you're looking for?" Kind of do a little bit of like motivational interviewing, Socratic questioning.
Mhm.
What is it that you're looking for here? What is the outcome you're trying to get? Okay, if you were trying to get that outcome, given all of these scenarios, given everything that you know is happening, what are some of the better options here? And then
Mhm.
we'll go there, and then I'll kind of challenge them a little bit on like, that might not be the best because of this, or like, maybe try it this way. But I'm never going to just be like, go
Yeah.
do this.
My
Now, there's
favorite
some
is when
clients I want
people
to, but I'm
yeah.
not
Oh,
gonna.
for sure. For sure. And that's what's fascinating because what's always fascinating in that setting that I know you and I do is we also not just read what people are saying, but what their body is saying. And that's something the somatic expression of people when we're having a conversation is so
Yeah,
important because if they're
it's
saying
so
like I'm so
funny.
excited to do that, but yet their shoulders are concaving
You're
in
like,
and you can see
"Meh."
them like eyes wide open, literally unconsciously. It's like I don't know how the heck I'm going to be able to do that. It's like check in, check in. You know, there's far too many people that
Yeah.
I know that are so easy or are so easily giving advice, unsolicited advice, and literally have a solution for everyone else's problems. But if you actually look at their own life, they are not using one of those tools to apply to their life. I can think of at least 5 people right off the top of my head, and I'm sure you can too, Bianca. And
We probably are thinking of a few of the same people too.
probably. And that's the thing. For those of you who are serial advice givers who do not pause before you do give that guidance or advice, think about how that is actually impacting other people. Because I really want to challenge those people who might struggle with not giving advice, but not stopping themselves from doing so.
We're not here to point the finger. You benefit something from giving advice. You feel like you're helping this person. It's coming from a beautiful place.
Oh, yeah.
Just be mindful of if you're giving advice because you feel good about yourself giving advice, or if you're giving advice because you genuinely believe it's the right advice for this person. There's a
Mm,
huge difference.
facts.
What you're talking about is called the Solomon effect, after King Solomon the Wise, because like he could give
Hmm.
advice, but he could never take it, or he could never take his own. It's a
Oh,
theory.
yeah.
It's a thing.
It's fascinating. Yeah. It's definitely interesting when you look at from the frame. Like, I'd be so curious to get into everyone's mind who's listening to this episode. And I want each one of them to think and have top of mind who are the top 5 people that give the most advice in your life. And I wonder if you show up as one of them, like you as a
Mm.
listener. I doubt that's the case, but take an examination of the degree of advice and unsolicited advice that you naturally jump into. And also take an account of what the people in your life, how they navigate giving, withholding, or redirecting advice that you're seeking, because that will help you understand truly the depth of the mindfulness practices that they're taking
Mm.
and yours. So that's my final episode or takeaway. My episode suggestion is 206. Are you being influenced by the right things? B, over to you.
My final takeaway is, would you trade lives with the person who is giving you that advice? If the answer is no, don't take their advice. I would, well, I don't want your life. I adore you, but you're tapped. But I would, I, I had, listen, it's just
Hey,
for funsies. It's just for
that's
funsies.
why I
I would
only
though.
say certain things
The thing is,
and refrain from
like,
others.
would I want your life? Meaning, like, the results that you have cultivated by your actions, 1000%, which is
Right,
why I can take your feedback. I don't want to
right.
be in your day to day, but like your
Mhm,
decision making and all of that, 100%. So, would you trade lives with the person who is giving you advice?
mm,
It's a good barometer of whether their advice is valid and sound or not.
mm,
My episode suggestion is 253. Who are your ride or die? If this is something that you struggle with, if you don't have a lot of good people in your life that you believe sincerely and truly have your best interest at heart despite themselves, then the
mhm,
Evolve Group Coaching Program is for you. You are going to get to connect with 9 other amazing human beings who are going to just want what's best for you. And this isn't just coming from us, this is what the last group told us. They told us verbatim that it was the first time that they ever were in a safe community, in a safe group where they knew they were cared for and that they could be open about things and have people just really be there for them in a loving, open, and compassionate way. If that is something that you feel like you need, and if you're putting your hand up like, yes, that's me, then
mhm,
click the link in the description. You'll get 20% off from listening to this show and listening to this episode if you use the code Evolve Listener. So the link is in the description. Secure your spot while there's still time. There's only a couple of weeks left and the spots are filling up. So make sure
mhm,
that you lock in your seat, and we cannot wait to see you there. Bye,
mhm.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.